Welcome to SPOTO's online quiz. Today, we'll explain real certification exam questions to help you prepare with confidence. Questions 1. If the outgoing interface for an established SNAT session changes, which two requirements must the configuration meet so that FortiGate continues forwarding packets from that session to the new outgoing interface? Choose 2. A. You must have a firewall policy that accepts the new traffic flow for the session. B. You must configure FortiGate so the SNAT IP address doesn't change. C. You must enable the SNAT route change setting. D. You must set firewall session dirty to check new on the new matching firewall policy. You have 15 seconds to answer. Answer A, B. For a stateful firewall like FortiGate to successfully reroute an established SNAT session to a new outgoing interface, two conditions are critical for maintaining the connection. First, a firewall policy must exist that explicitly allows traffic from the original source interface to the new destination interface. When the path changes, FortiGate re-evaluates the session against its policy table. Without a matching allow policy for this new traffic flow, the packets will be dropped. Second, the source IP address presented to the destination server must not change mid-session. If the SNAT IP changes, the server will see the packets as coming from a new, unrecognized source, breaking the established session state. Therefore, the configuration must ensure a consistent SNAT IP is used, typically by employing an IP pool for NAT that is not tied to a specific interface's IP address. Questions 2. You want to configure ADVPN without route reflection on your SD-WAN topology. Which two statements apply to this scenario? Choose 2. A. ADVPN without route reflection is compatible with BGP on loopback. B. ADVPN without route reflection is also called ADVPN 2.0. C. ADVPN without route reflection allows hub-side steering by route tag. D. ADVPN without route reflection is compatible with static routing on the overlay. You have 15 seconds to answer. Answer B, D. The provided answers are correct. ADVPN without BGP route reflection is officially designated as ADVPN 2.0. This evolution was designed to simplify deployment and management by eliminating the need for a complex IBGP overlay configuration between the hub and spokes. Because ADVPN 2.0 does not rely on BGP for route exchange, it is fully compatible with using static routing on the overlay. In this configuration, the hub dynamically learns the protected subnets behind each spoke. When traffic between two spokes is initiated, the hub facilitates the creation of a direct, on-demand tunnel, a shortcut, between them, removing the dependency on a dynamic routing protocol for this process. This makes the overall SD-WAN setup more scalable and easier to configure. Questions 3. When is an SD-WAN member considered to be in the dead state? A. When both servers used for health checks are reachable by an interface member. B. When the SD-WAN member reaches the failure threshold. C. When the SD-WAN member has an active route in a routing table. D. When the SD-WAN member meets the SLA target requirement. You have 15 seconds to answer. Answer B. In Fortinet's SD-WAN, a member's state is determined by a continuous health check mechanism. FortiGate sends probes, such as ping or HTTP, over each member linked to a specified server to measure performance metrics. The failure threshold, fails before inactive, is a crucial configurable parameter that defines how many consecutive probes must fail before the link is considered dead or inactive.
This threshold-based approach provides stability by preventing the link from being marked as down due to transient, minor network issues, a condition known as link flapping.
Once a member is declared dead, the SD-WAN process removes its routes from the routing table and redirects traffic to other healthy members based on the configured SD-WAN rules, ensuring service continuity. Questions 4. What are 2 advantages of using an IPsec recommended template to configure an IPsec tunnel in a hub-and-spoke topology? Choose 2. A. The VPN Monitor tool provides additional statistics for tunnels defined with an IPsec recommended template. B. It ensures consistent settings between Phase 1 and Phase 2. C. It guides the administrator to use Fortinet recommended settings. D. It automatically installs IPsec tunnels to every spoke when they are added to the FortiManager ADOM. You have 15 seconds to answer. Answer B, C. Using an IPsec recommended template in FortiManager streamlines hub-and-spoke VPN configuration by enforcing best practices. This guides administrators to select secure and efficient settings, such as strong encryption algorithms, appropriate Diffie-Hellman groups, and optimized key lifetimes, which are pre-vetted by Fortinet. This approach minimizes the risk of deploying weak or deprecated security protocols. Furthermore, the template guarantees internal consistency between the Phase 1 IK and Phase 2 IPsec proposals. B. This prevents common misconfigurations where incompatible settings, like mismatched lifetimes or algorithms, would cause tunnel negotiation failures. The result is a more reliable, secure, and consistently configured VPN overlay across the entire SD-WAN fabric, simplifying deployment and reducing troubleshooting efforts. Questions 5. An administrator configured a best quality SD-WAN rule with WAN1 and WAN2 as members. WAN1 has the highest configuration priority, and link cost threshold is set to 10. FortiGate reports a latency of 100 milliseconds and 120 milliseconds for WAN1 and WAN2, respectively. Which change in the measured latency will make WAN2 the new preferred member? A. When WAN2 has a latency lower than 91 ms. B. When WAN1 has a latency lower than 100 milliseconds. C. When WAN1 has a latency of 120 milliseconds. D. When WAN2 has a latency of 100 milliseconds. You have 15 seconds to answer. Answer A. In a best quality SD-WAN rule, FortiGate selects the link with the best performance for the chosen metric, which is latency in this case. The link cost threshold of 10% creates a quality window. If another link's latency is within 10% of the best link's latency, both are considered equal, and the configured priority acts as the tiebreaker. Initially, WAN1, 100 milliseconds, is the best. For WAN2 to become the preferred member, it must not only have a lower latency but must be so much better that WAN1 falls outside the new quality window defined by WAN2. The calculation is WAN2 latency * 1 plus 10/100, less than 100 ms. Solving for WAN2 latency gives 100/1.1, which is 90.9 ms. Therefore, if WAN2's latency drops below 91 ms, WAN1 will be outside the threshold, making WAN2 the sole best performing link. Question 6. By default, what member information does FortiGate consider when selecting the best member in a lowest cost SLA SD-WAN rule? A. Status of configured SLA targets, cost, and priority. B. Status of configured SLA targets, interface index number, and priority. C. Interface index number, cost, and priority. D. Status of configured SLA targets, cost, and corrected metric. You have 15 seconds to answer.
Answer, A. The selected answer is correct.
The lowest cost (SLA) strategy employs a multi-tiered decision process to select the optimal path. First, FortiGate evaluates all SD-WAN members against the configured performance SLA targets, latency, jitter, and packet loss.
Only members that meet these SLA requirements are considered viable candidates.
Next, from this pool of SLA-compliant members, FortiGate selects the one with the lowest configured cost, which is an administrative value used to express preference for a link. If two or more members meet the SLA and have the same lowest cost, FortiGate uses the priority value as the final tiebreaker to make a deterministic selection. This hierarchical logic ensures traffic is routed over the most cost-effective link that meets performance standards. Question 7. In a hub-and-spoke SD-WAN topology, you choose OAS for your overlays. What type of routing can you use on the branches? A. OSPF routing on the overlay network and OSPF routing on the underlay and between the branch-protected subnets. B. Static routing on the overlay network and BGP routing on the underlay and between the branch-protected subnets. C. BGP routing on the overlay network and static routing on the underlay and between the branch-protected subnets. D. Static routing on the overlay network and static routing on the underlay and between the branch-protected subnets. You have 15 seconds to answer. Answer, D. In an orchestrated SD-WAN environment, static routing represents the most common, stable, and simplified approach for a branch deployment. *underlay routing *. The connection from the branch FortiGate to its ISP is almost always configured using a static default route. Running a dynamic routing protocol with the service provider at a typical branch is unnecessarily complex and rarely done. Branch protected subnets. Similarly, the simplest method for the FortiGate to learn about its own internal LAN networks is through static routes. These routes define the subnets that need to be advertised across the SD-WAN. Overlay routing *. While Fortinet's orchestrator uses BGP as the underlying routing protocol for the overlay, it automates this configuration. The administrator's primary task is to statically define which local subnets, the protected subnets, should be advertised into the BGP overlay. Therefore, this entire model relies on static definitions for simplicity and control. Questions 8. Which two features are supported by IKEv2 and not by IKEv1? Choose 2. A. Asymmetric authentication. B. IKE mode configuration. C. IKE aggressive mode. D. Network overlay ID. You have 15 seconds to answer. Answer, A, D. The selected answers are correct because they highlight two significant enhancements IKEv2 offers over its predecessor, IKEv1, particularly for modern network designs like SD-WAN. Asymmetric authentication is a key flexibility feature introduced in IKEv2. It allows the two VPN peers to use different authentication methods. For example, a central hub can use a digital certificate while a remote spoke uses a simpler pre-shared key, PSK. IKEv1 requires symmetric authentication, where both ends must use the same method. Network Overlay ID is a mechanism used in Fortinet's SD-WAN and AD-VPN implementations. It allows a single FortiGate to differentiate between multiple, distinct overlay networks or VPN communities that may be initiated from the same peer IP address. This is critical for scalable and multi-tenant hub-and-spoke deployments. IKEv1 lacks this capability. Questions 9. You are configuring SD-WAN zones and members on a FortiGate device. Which two facts should you take into account? Choose 2. A. The default zone is SDW default. B. The default zone is virtual WAN link.
C. You can add any physical interface to a zone. D. You can add only SD-WAN members to a zone. You have 15 seconds to answer. Answer B, D. The provided answers are correct. In Fortinet's SD-WAN architecture, enabling the feature automatically creates a default zone named Virtual WAN Link. This zone acts as the initial logical container for WAN interfaces and is the default target for SD-WAN rules. It serves as a foundational element, abstracting the physical WAN connections into a single, routable virtual interface. Furthermore, an SD-WAN zone is a specialized logical grouping. You cannot add an arbitrary physical or virtual interface directly. An interface must first be explicitly configured as an SD-WAN member, a process that includes defining its associated gateway and performance SLA health checks. Only these designated members, which are actively managed by the SD-WAN engine, can be added to a zone. This ensures the integrity of the SD-WAN fabric for intelligent path selection and failover. Questions 10. In which rule strategy are cost and interface preference not considered selection factors? A. Best quality. B. Lowest cost, SLA. C. Maximize bandwidth, SLA. D. Manual. You have 15 seconds to answer. Answer C. The Maximize Bandwidth (SLA) strategy is designed to load balance traffic across all SD-WAN member interfaces that meet the defined service level agreement (SLA) targets. Its primary objective is to aggregate the throughput of all qualifying links, distributing sessions based on configured bandwidth or measured volume ratios. Unlike strategies such as lowest cost (SLA) or best quality, it does not seek to select a single preferred path. Because its goal is to utilize the combined capacity of all SLA-compliant members simultaneously, it intentionally disregards administrative metrics like interface cost and preference. These factors are relevant only when a strategy needs to select one link from a group of otherwise equal, valid options, a behavior contrary to the load balancing nature of this particular strategy. Don't want to miss any exam content? Visit the SPOTO website now to take a free practice exam. Or add us on WhatsApp for everything you need to know.